Overwatch is having a Mauga problem again, and while we spoke about it earlier on this channel in the past few weeks and stuff, it seems like the balance team just hasn't learned their lesson, and we're now in a scenario where potentially an argument can be made that is it pay to win? And again, like I said, potentially there is an argument that can be made that yes, at the moment in Mauga's current balance state, as of 2020, like as of 22nd of December, there is something about him. I don't know how to word this. I'm trying to be like not aggressive with my choice of wording, but the guy's broken. Like I don't think there's any sugarcoating it. He's very overwhelming for another tank to run into. Pretty much his only answer is Roadhog, but in the current balance patch, it does seem like Mauga is overwhelming Roadhog. In my experience, in I've been playing a lot of quick play here and there. I was playing, the usual Hog, and it just felt really hard to get rid of him now with the new lifesteal increase that he's gotten, the way just every buff that they've given him felt overdone. And there's a few things that we have to talk about when it comes to Mauga that we need to understand why characters like Mauga, Bastion, Torbjorn, like this line of characters that we'll talk about in a second, why they can be viable. And I've spoken about them before, and my philosophy has been correct, and it's been proven time and time again why these characters are incredibly frustrating to play against. Now, I'm going to try and isolate some of these concepts and ideas to keep the discussion as simplistic as possible, because I know a lot of you will give your own points in the comments down below, and please feel free to share your experiences with me in the comments. I will read and I will respond, and let's keep it, respectful. But the thing about Mauga right now, the first problem is he just counters every other tank. He's like really, really good against almost everyone. Like there's only like maybe two tanks that can somewhat outpace him, but that is if the Mauga's supports are just not babysitting him, right? So that is the problem number one, right? Like he's just overwhelming against other tanks, and it forces you as a tank player to actually, like, like if I don't have Mauga, like, and I don't take the mirror, I lose. Here's a funny clip from, I believe, Giba's stream where he was playing, and one of the, I believe, enemy tank players just logs off the ranked game, buys the battle pass just so he can mirror the Mauga or something, and he just comes back and locks in Mauga. Like this is what the game has come down to. Funnily enough, Overwatch 2 executive producer Jared News had once said that games having like these DLC heroes that are paid to win is disgusting, and yet here we are today where we have a DLC hero that is, granted that there is a grind to unlocking him for free to play players that will just take so long, and in those amount of games, imagine the amount of SR that you might lose, because if you don't have Mauga or your tank doesn't have Mauga, how overwhelming it's going to be for him to just run over that tank to the guy that does have one and just, just take you for free SR. Because what are you going to do after your tank just completely falls apart and can't take the mirror, right? So there is a little bit of an argument that can be made over there, right? Of course, there are still things in this game that can deal with Mauga, like anti-nade and hack and bastion and all these things, but at the moment they're feeling less effective because of the changes that Mauga got, and most importantly, feel like nobody talks about this one, but the changes that 𝐒𝐿𝐄 got, and you almost always are playing 𝐒𝐿𝐄 with Mauga. You're literally his favorite babysitter, and you run the two of them together, and at any point, like he gets the negative effects on him, you Suzu it, you cleanse it, and he gets even more burst heals. Like there has, like, you're usually playing an Ana or BAP plus the 𝐒𝐿𝐄 with the Mauga, and there's so, like, while for the supports it's not fun. This is another problem that Mauga causes, is it's not fun for the supports because they're forced to kind of just sit there, and just hard pocket him, like in the like 2-3 seconds that they might look away to deal with the flanker, or just, try to take some pot shots at the enemy. They're immediately punished because Mauga's HP just immediately plummets. So it's one of those weird cases where it's like, well, how do we balance this character? And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to also talk about today. Is I am firmly under the belief that Mauga is the first character in Overwatch history for the tank role that cannot be balanced, and he would just be better off in 6v6. Now, I don't have a stance on 6v6 or 5v5 because I genuinely believe it doesn't matter what format we're in. The balance team has proven time and time again, whether it's been Jeff Goodman's one or Alec Dawson's one, that they do not fundamentally understand what is enjoyable in this game and what is not enjoyable. I will say one thing, and I don't think this is a hot take. Mauga is not enjoyable. Shredding through almost the entire tank roster without problem and making the life of those people frustrating is not fun to play against. Neither is encouraging the idea of frustration into a player that they feel like, well, I have to buy the battle pass because if I don't, my gameplay experience is ruined, right? And it contradicts with the philosophy that the developers, or especially the executive producer Jared News shares, where he says that well, we don't want like overpowered DLC heroes because that concept is disgusting to us. That he said in an interview with Dexerto a month or a few months back, and this is kind of where we are today. And this problem is going to keep happening with the DLC heroes because they want people to feel like they got their money's worth, but they also want people to feel like don't they also don't want people to feel like, oh, I have too much edge over the other person. And the problem with Mauga's design is they literally took all the worst things about Roadhog that didn't make him a tank, and then Bastion's base, like, turn form concept, and put it into one character and said, boom, we have made the worst tank ever. That, like, he's only ever going to be viable if he's overtuned, and then when he's not overtuned, he's just going to be a walking like boulder that you can just punch through and he'll just break and fall apart because he's actually not a boulder, he's actually just a paper in disguise that you can cut through without problem. And that's kind of the problem with Mauga right now, and I am firmly under the belief that number one, Mauga cannot be balanced at all. Like, this is the first hero that I've genuinely felt this way towards, right? And even if you do balance him, the only way that you can go to make it not frustrating to play against is the tank is good at doing he has like his damage should be nerfed and his power should come in his survivability. Essentially, we create a second Orisa where their kill potential is kind of meh, but their survivability is decent, right? And it, like, in for teams that are not good at running against them or tunnel vision tanks, that's where the strengths of characters like Orisa and Mauga should come from. Because I feel like if you put strength in characters like Orisa and Mauga within the ability to just damage people and secure kills on them so quickly, it's not fun to play because both of them have really good matchups against, well, in this case, Mauga more than Orisa, have really good matchups against pretty much the majority of the tank roster. I have never seen a Mauga versus Reinhardt matchup that so heavily favors the other guy. I've never ever seen such a disgusting matchup. Even Mauga versus Orisa currently is so crazily Mauga favored. Like, Mauga has such favorable matchups that the other tank just feels like crap. I just gotta hide behind this corner, hide behind this corner, hide behind this corner. And this is kind of a problem. Like, we need to figure this out. We need to address this. And here's what I believe. And I know some people that are fans of this character might not like to hear this. And I've said this before. Like, a lot of the balancing has to go by skill to value ratio. Mauga is a character that should only really be viable till a certain point within low elo. And for us to be able to achieve this, we just, like, we have to nerf him a little bit, and then we just have to leave him as is. Now, in my opinion, the way I would nerf him is I would just turn him into another Ursa, because we cannot allow a character like this to be viable. He is unbelievably easy to play. He's unbelievably easy to play with almost next to no skill expression. Please don't try to over-exaggerate the fact that, oh, but if, like running up to people and pressing left click, which is with a big circular radius, or, like, first of all, like, if you are trying to do like these run and done slams with Mauga, you're literally committing suicide in the match, because you're just asking for a scenario where you've left your supports and you're now in a 1v5 and everybody just isolates you and deletes you immediately. So please don't do that. And second of all, his strength is actually in the fact that he's basically like a tanky Bastion. And we all know how the community feels about Bastion. And I think fundamentally, like, most people can agree that a character like this guy cannot be the go-to tank in the game. He just is frustrating. The forums, I was at the forums, they're filled with Mauga hate threads. I was at the Reddit threads, they were filled with just, I cannot stand Mauga. And I really hope the development team is listening, and I really hope they understand that people are not fans of these easier designs that can overwhelm the game. This is kind of what I've been trying to preach for so long. Forget the support role for a moment, because they might have overpowered abilities, but it's abilities that are the strength within the supports. In the damage and the tank role, we do have some easy to play characters that we can just pick up, press one button and hold left click and immediately just destroy games. And characters like, again, like I've said, Torbjorn, Bastion, Mauga, and even Ursa whenever she becomes viable. These are the type of characters that we can just unfortunately not allow to be viable beyond the metal ranks. Like, people in metal ranks will play anything, and because of the frequency of mistakes that are made in metal ranks, the level of mistakes that are made, like, down there, any character can work down there. Like, I can hard block, you know, like, what's it called? Like, I can hard block Tracer into any composition, and I'll probably be able to carry myself all the way up to at least like mid masters without problem. One tricking Tracer, and we've seen other people do it too on stream on unranked GMs. Why? Because the play down there is uncoordinated. People are just playing their favorite heroes. Nobody really cares. So if you just play smart in these elos, you'll be fine, right? And characters like Mauga, for that type of setting where they're just okay, like, they're not overwhelming, but you can play them and you can make it work here and there, like in these lower elos, it's fine. But we cannot have them be so viable that now look at this shot over here. Samito went on an unranked to GM with Mauga, and my guy went 35-1. This is a 97% win rate, right? And now, Samito's a very talented player, very, very good player, right? But I don't think I've ever seen such a fast unranked to GM in my life. This is incredible. A 35-1. That's wow. That's almost just, it blatantly screams pay to win. And here is Boger. Everybody knows Boger, the tank player, right? This is Boger's new account that he made to grind Mauga only. And as you can see, in 11 hours, right away, he's rank 44. Another, I believe this was an unranked to GM. You guys can correct me. I wasn't properly following Boger's, like, experience with Mauga. But if you just look at how quickly, because I'm looking at the progression level being 54 and Mauga being level 17, so this is mostly like a quote-unquote fresh account in my eyes. The fact that he's sitting at 11 hours into one season at rank 44, that is insane. And I think it's time we need to look at Mauga and tone him down a little bit and make him like the same level. Well, make him similar to Orisa, and then we just leave him. Like, this is again one of those cases where the Blizzard team has to take the L and understand that this character cannot be allowed to be quote-unquote viable. He's not good. And and as you guys have noticed throughout my conversations, I don't even say this from the perspective of a support or DPS player, right? Because they are not the ones that struggle that much against him. They have more answers against him than anybody in the roster, especially the support role. The biggest problem that Mauga brings is that he makes tank miserable to play unless you're playing Mauga as well. And do we really need another reason for people to not play tank unless they're playing the Mauga mirror and forcing their supports to heal bot and play an extremely boring playstyle, while also forcing DPS to hug Mauga and try to follow up on his pressure damage, because without them, Mauga's kind of crap. So this is one of those cases where I personally think Mauga is a failed hero. Like, he's, from a hero design perspective, he's a complete failure, right? And the more we go into 5v5, the more I feel like we will see these problems rise over and over again. And the more I'm being convinced that maybe 6v6 is the way to go, right? I wasn't the biggest fan of 6v6 because of the way balance was back then. But if we take the logic that we're using in 5v5 of we're trying to reduce barriers, introduce different ways to create sustainability, and just tone it down, balance it out, play around another tank, like, that can kind of help you and things like that, maybe it's worth a shot. And I'll discuss this extensively in another video that I'll do called Is It Time to Go Back to 6v6? That is going to be it for today, everybody. If you want to support the channel for free, you can do so by hitting like and subscribe, because it helps with the algorithm. If you want to support me financially, use the super chat down below. I'm going through a little bit of a tough time, so anything helps, even $1 or $5. But if you want to send more than that, by all means, feel free. I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.